I'm Dan Larson, a veteran of 3 seasons of Daredevil, 1.5 seasons of Luke Cage, 1 season of Iron Fist, 1 season of The Defenders, 4 episodes of Jessica Jones, and 1 season of The Punisher on Netflix. So far, based on that resume, I feel confident saying that I am in the above average fan category of total consumption for Marvel's Netflix streaming properties. And I am very thankful that this Netflix-verse even exists, that there are legitimately compelling seasons of characters that I never thought would become household names, that the whole thing would last long enough for a full slate of action figures to be produced that even includes characters like Claire Temple and Colleen Wing. And I know that wanting something to go on just because is not a good enough reason for it to continue. There is absolutely value in stories that don't continue into infinity, even if we all agree that the current stories are good. But I can't help but be disappointed at the announcement of the cancellation of most of that universe, probably all of that universe. In 2013, Disney and Netflix announced a deal to bring 5 new Marvel series to the online streaming service that would include Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, and a shared narrative that would have all of those shows culminate in a season of The Defenders, the Netflix version of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Avengers. All of the Netflix Marvel shows were going to exist in the MCU proper, and that was an incredibly exciting prospect. It would be an unprecedented degree of storytelling, world building, character development, and coordination between productions in theaters and at home. A single Marvel universe that could be viewed from different angles with the degree of continuity that Marvel implemented in their comics since the beginning. Netflix was happy to pay for and distribute the content. Disney and Marvel were happy to have a partner with the infrastructure already in place who would help these characters reach a larger, potentially different audience than standard broadcast television. It was an experiment on both sides of the deal with huge shared potential payoff. Daredevil Season 1 kicked the whole thing off with a bang in the shape of a fist holding a baton delivered right to the face and guts of the competition, who at the time was really no one. Take that, whatever was on broadcast TV at the time. Take this, whatever was playing in the theaters. Take some of these, YouTube. As Netflix and Marvel released each new series, some were met with critical acclaim, others were not so fortunate. A trend of diminishing returns became evident, and by the time The Defenders arrived, it wasn't exactly the television equivalent of the success experienced at the box office by The Avengers.
God didn't do this. The devil did. And I'm gonna find him.
Was it bad writing, bad casting, bad visual effects, characters that people just weren't that interested in, oversaturation of the market? Was it too many 5-episode stories stretched into 13-episode seasons? Not for nothing, but it's hard to coordinate all that stuff. It's hard enough for the productions of 2 different movies to get their stories in line, even harder to make sure that all of that stuff lines up with whatever the big major event is supposed to be. Expecting all of those independent productions to be on the same page was never really something that was going to happen, I can say now, after the fact. The Netflix-verse never really felt like it was part of the MCU proper. None of the events ever had any real impact on the events that were happening in the other place. It never became must-see streaming for the people who were willing to watch Ant-Man at the theater because they didn't want to miss out on anything important before the next Avengers movie.
I'm from a city where having a heart is not suggested. I'm a maverick, a tapping backs, I'm a savage.
Netflix has confirmed that the shows were for them to cancel, not Disney. Judging from most reports, the Daredevil production crew and Disney were totally surprised by the announcement. The cast was assuming it was going to run for at least 5 seasons. The writers apparently had another 3-season arc ready to go. Daredevil Season 3 ends with a good degree of closure, but definitely leaves the door open for another season and, one could speculate, suggests what can be expected with respect to conflicts immediate and long-term. It didn't go well in rehearsal either. But the cancellation isn't about the content of the shows. Love Daredevil, hate Iron Fist, neutral on Luke Cage. None of that matters. What matters is the direct-to-consumer relationship and the cost and value of producing that entertainment. Streaming services have enabled content producers to go right to the consumer with their product and reap all of the rewards at the lowest possible cost. Trust me, if Toy Galaxy could bypass the current distribution system, namely YouTube, and go direct to consumer, we would. Disney wants to get in on that action. Disney is starting their own streaming service called Disney Plus, and they want to bring all of their very valuable brands over to it so the consumer pays them directly. Disney Plus rolls out with new shows including so far Loki, Scarlet Witch and Vision, The Mandalorian, something with Cassian Andor, spoiler alert, he dies, and a new/final season of The Clone Wars, plus all the Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars films, and thousands of hours of existing Disney TV shows. The current streaming home of all of that content was and could have been Netflix, but Disney is pulling it all. They are pulling most of the biggest box office moneymakers of the last 10 years away from Netflix to become a direct competitor to Netflix. Why would Netflix want to help Disney in any way after a move like that? Canceling the Disney, Marvel, Netflix verse is Netflix's response to Disney's creation of Disney Plus. If Netflix can't have all that Marvel, Star Wars, and Disney revenue, then Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, The Defenders, and probably The Punisher will be sacrificed, because the original agreement stipulates that those characters can't be used by Disney for 2 years. That most likely means a complete reboot, recasting, reintroduction of all those properties because the MCU is going to look very different in 2 years. Post-Infinity War, post-Endgame, potentially building up to a merging with all of the Fox-owned properties like Fantastic Four and the X-Men, it likely means new principal actors in most of the key Marvel Universe roles. Netflix is taking all the value built up in the last 5 years and kicking it into the historical archive, where it will be stored next to Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Mans, the Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen X-Men movies, Ben Affleck Daredevil, and 2 other Punishers.
You are a living weapon.
It's too bad I'm just now getting to the point where I can tell the difference between Charlie Cox and Charlie Human. One was in Daredevil, the other was in Pacific Rim. Heck, I didn't even know who Charlie Cox was until he landed the part of Daredevil. Now I'm going to have a hard time seeing him as anything else except for Charlie Human, because I'm just now getting to the point where I can tell the difference between them. On paper, I get it. I can see what the moves mean to each of the companies involved, and I understand that the people who actually make the shows, the writers, actors, directors, effects people, they are unfortunately the real victims here. But the math of it all makes sense. But the possibility that this isn't actually the intended end of the story of Matt Murdock, Kingpin, Bullseye, Karen Page, Foggy Nelson, that stings. The not knowing, the wondering what could have happened to those characters, how those stories might have been told, that burns. That said, the creative teams will move on, the characters will be usable again, and at some point they'll find their way back into some show or movie or something. The era of superhero media dominance is far from over, but this version of Daredevil, of all the Netflix characters, will ultimately be collateral damage in a battle between Disney and Netflix as they make moves in the interest of developing a closer relationship with you and I as consumers, and that is going to take some time to get over. Thanks for watching. Please hit like, hit subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Thank you very much to those who already are. If you're in the position to help the channel grow, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/toygalaxy and let us know in the comments down below who's to blame for all this cancellation. Disney? Netflix? Producer Greg?
It's me!
It's you. You've been beating this drum for a while.
Cut.